Hello and welcome back to the Dragon Den. I'm KingofDragons 5000 and today I have another action figure review. Today I'll be taking a look at the Super 7 exclusive Godzilla -1 - Color Edition. Getting Goji out of the packaging, I'm thoroughly impressed by what Super 7 has done here. Just getting him out of the box, he is a very nice figure to look at and there's a lot of impressive details on him. It's very clear that Super 7 went out of their way to sculpt this amazing Godzilla. As far as Goji's accessories goes, he comes with two heads, one with his mouth closed and one with his mouth open. Taking a look at Goji's details, it's clear that Super 7 has taken their time to sculpt this amazing Godzilla figure. It's clear that the dedication to this sculpt shows the amount of detail that Super 7 was able to put into Godzilla. Having a look at Goji's head, I'm actually impressed by what Super 7 did with the paint job here. I have seen some where the eyes are painted terribly, but on mine, the eyes actually look really good here. The gray paint used along this black plastic does a really good job of bringing out all his impressive sculpted details. His teeth are painted white and they do look good, although they are sloppy in some parts. But the brow ridges and the spikes coming out of his cheeks looks very good and are painted wonderfully. Having a look at his chest, the detail continues with this impressive sculpt work and it's very accurate to the CGI model. Super 7 has done a great job sculpting Goji's scales, and this gray paint that they went with does a really good job highlighting all that impressive detail. There are some spots on Goji where the sculpt does seem a little bit soft, but overall it's still very sharp and crisp. His arms continue that impressive sculpt work with his scales, and that gray paint just does a really good job highlighting how much detail he actually has. The way that his elbow spikes protrude on the upper part of his arms was a really good detail, and I like the way it looks when you have Godzilla's arm bent. His claws are done in this really nice gray paint, and the level of detail on his hands is still very impressive. Goji does have these very massive thighs, which is quite accurate to the CGI model. The plastic used for his legs is a little bit glossier than the rest of his body, but the paint job does a really good job of bringing it down slightly. The way the grays touch those high points on his scales and the dark plastic is underneath that just shows how much detail that Super 7 put into this Godzilla. Unfortunately, his toe claws are not painted the same way as his hand claws, but they still have a lot of detail to them. And you can see on his feet that gray paint looks really good and continues that impressive dry brushing. I think Super 7 has done a fantastic job on Godzilla's dorsal plates, as there's a lot of impressive detail to them. They still have that gray paint which hits the high points of the dorsal plates, and the recesses have that black plastic showing through. Altogether, it makes these dorsal plates stand out wonderfully and it looks quite impressive. Moving on to Godzilla's tail, you can see that his dorsal plates continue that impressive paint job, and there's still some paint on his tail as well. You can see that the gray paint still hits those scales really nicely, and the paint along his dorsal plates is still done very nice on his tail. And despite his tail being done in segments, the paint is actually quite consistent going throughout his tail. So overall, the detailing on Goji is fantastic and Super 7 has done a great job here. Even though there are some soft parts of his sculpt, the amount of detail that Super 7 was able to put into this Godzilla is phenomenal. Add to it with a great paint job, everything on this Godzilla shines brightly. With the paint and details out of the way, let's compare Goji to our usual suspects. As you can see, Goji is going to be quite taller than your standard 6-inch action figure. This version of Godzilla is going to be in a scale all his own, as he rivals the Haya and NECA Godzilla in size. Goji still has a great size to him, and I'm actually happy with how he came out. Having a look at his articulation, Goji does have a double ball joint in the head and a ball joint in the neck. arms hinge out to the side and do a full 360. He does have a swivel in the bicep and a swivel hinge at the elbow. Minus Goji will have a hinge and swivel at his wrist. Godzilla does have a ball joint in the middle of his chest. His hips are on ball joints which do kick forward, go back, and out to the side slightly. He does have a hinge and swivel at his knee. He has a hinge in the ankle and forward-facing pin for a rocker ankle. And his tail is on multiple ball joints, so you'd get a lot of good bend in his tail. Overall, the articulation here on Minus Goji is quite impressive, and I'm really happy with what Super 7 has presented here. You can get Godzilla in a lot of great poses, but because of the way he is styled and it is accurate to the movie, there will be some limitations. So with everything said and done about the Minus Colored edition of the Super 7 Minus Godzilla, let's get him posed for my final thoughts. Godzilla Minus One has to be one of my favorite Godzilla movies, and I'm really happy to finally have a Minus Goji in my collection. I did pass on the SH Monster Arts Godzilla as it didn't turn out the way the prototype showed. And even though this version of Godzilla has a few shortcomings, I'm still really impressed by what Super 7 has presented here. The sculpt work here on Minus Goji is actually quite impressive, and it blows me away with what Super 7 was able to do here. Add to it, the paint job just does a really good job accentuating all those fantastic details, so the look comes together really nicely. As far as the accessories goes, Minus Goji did come with two separate head sculpts, although I'm not a fan of the way Super 7 does their Godzilla heads, as I prefer the articulated jaw. This is still a really good looking Godzilla figure. And like I said, the paint job is questionable on some copies, but on mine at least the eyes are looking forward. And I have seen other Minus Color Gojis having some issues with the upper torso, but on mine it's actually quite solid and there's no loose joints to speak of. Now, because of the nature of Minus Goji, there are going to be some sharp parts to the figure, so do be careful when attaching his tail and handling him. Super 7 has a winner here with their Minus Goji sculpt, and I am really happy that I did purchase the Minus Color edition. This was one figure I was actually going to pass on, but sitting on it for a couple of hours, I had to pull the trigger and needed this Godzilla in my collection. At the time I'm making this video, the Minus Color Goji did sell out on Super 7, and he was a very limited release. If you weren't on Super 7's website to pick him up, you are going to have to go to eBay for him, and his price is outrageous right now. But if you just want the standard Minus Goji, he will be coming out very soon, so be on the lookout for the Super 7 Minus Godzilla. Thank you for watching another video here on the Dragon Den, and before you go, don't forget to like this video, leave a comment, subscribe to my channel, and check out the rest of my Godzilla playlist. If you're in a position to help out the Dragon Den, check out my Patreon where I have some exclusive content and early access videos. Check out my Instagram account for new and exciting action figure photos, videos, recent pickups, latest prints, and as always, ring that bell so you never miss another video. And until next time, my loyal Dragonites, coming from the Dragon Den, I'm King of Dragons 5000 reminding you to redesign, rebuild, and reclaim. I'll see you next time.